It is your go-to place for entertaining car talk, the In Wheel Time Car Talk Show. Just ahead, author of a racing safety book called Crash. Jeff has a feature on 5 Pontiacs car fans have forgotten about. And later, we'll have auto Christmas gift ideas from none other than Mercedes Lilienthal.
All right.
And the stories making auto news headlines, along with Conrad's Car Clinic.
Award-winning Mercedes Lilienthal.
Yep.
That's it.
We'll get to that.
Howdy. Along with Mike out of this world, Mars, King Conrad DeLong. We need more Jeff Dziekan. I'm Don Armstrong. Hey, thanks so much for joining us on this Saturday. We truly appreciate you joining us. 2 weeks to go to Christmas. Next weekend is the Tailpipes and Tacos Cruise-In. We'll be at that. Hey, make plans to attend. Either enter your car. All you have to do is just drive into the parking lot.
You are entered.
To get one of the chili pepper trophies that we have sitting right back here. There are 3 trophies. Yes, there are 3 trophies that are given away. And it's a great event, 3 hours, cruise in. The weather's supposed to be fantastic.
No cost to come to the show.
No, not at all.
You show up. We've got a selection committee person that walks around, checks out all the cars, and then we select the winner.
Yeah, and I've got a couple buddies of mine coming, bringing their specialty items out.
And I will tell you that it's a good thing, and any money that you spend, all of it goes to Shirley's Kids. It's a charity, and it's that time of the year that you need to give a little bit, and it'll be a good opportunity for you to get the car out. And with the weather that's supposed to be absolutely spectacular next Saturday, it's a great time.
The last hurrah
of the
before
year,
the end of the
so
year.
to speak. Yeah, exactly. So I want to talk to you now about Jonathon Ingram, and he is the author of a book called Crash. Jonathon, good morning to you.
Good morning, guys. Happy 2 weeks before Christmas.
Yeah, and same to you, too. I did not know that there was a book about racing safety, and you have authored a book called Crash. Continues to be a leading resource on the subject of racing safety. And you mentioned in here Jeff Gordon's 2008 crash confirmed the role of Hans in racing safety revolution. And for those people that don't know, that are watching or listening to our show this morning, tell everybody what Hans is and what it stands for.
Well, the Hans stands for the head and neck support, because it has that name, because that's kind of a racing name. There's a lot of guys out there that have been successful going racing named Hans. But it's called the head and neck support originally because it was designed to not only save drivers from basal skull fractures in a crash. It was also the original Model 1, designed by Dr. Robert Hubbard, was designed to help a driver, in this case Jim Downing, who was the inspiration behind it, to keep his head up, more or less. You know, give him head and neck support. For example, at Sebring, during a long 12-hour race with a lot of high G corners, rough track, several stints behind the wheel, tall, slender guy like Jim, he wanted something to help give him neck support. So it had tethers on the side, the Model 1, as well as the tether in the back. And during a race, Jim could reach up and tug those tethers to tighten, give himself more neck support from the device.
And it was a basal skull fracture that ultimately killed Dale Earnhardt. And that kind of really got the ball rolling, did it not, in this particular item of safety?
Yes and no, because there were so many crashes in the 90s and 2000 that took lives as a result of basal skull fracture in major professional races. So, Adam Petty in 2000 would be one of them. Kenny Irwin, both of those were in NASCAR the summer before Dale got killed. Tony Roper, so those three guys died of basal skull fractures in 2000. So Dale was the fourth within 2 years in NASCAR. So there was just in NASCAR alone, there was that those prior deaths, and everybody thought, as usual in racing, it's not going to happen to me. When it happened to Dale Earnhardt, that really did get everybody's attention.
And for our listeners to understand, basal skull fracture, that is a fracture of one of the bones low on where your head connects to your neck. Is that true?
Yes, right in the middle central part of the skull. That's where the neck connects and goes, has a couple of arteries there, and those arteries run into the brain, and so there's a hole at the base of the skull, and that's where the atlas connects. The atlas divide. I'm forgetting my medical history now, but the atlas cervical, the top number 1 cervical bone, connects right there at that hole at the base of the skull, and that's where the major veins and arteries go in and out of the brain. So what happens when there's a fracture in that area, if it's bad, the fracture, then it severs the artery, and the person suffering the injury bleeds to death within 30 seconds. And we've seen that over time. But also Ernie Irvan, for example, or Formula One driver Mika Hakkinen, they survived basal skull fractures. It was a fracture, but it wasn't bad enough to sever those arteries. So, that's the medical event that takes place.
And the purpose of the Hans device is connects the helmet to a shoulder restraint and a shoulder harness, and that way, in a sudden impact, that bowling ball you have for a head doesn't continue to go forward and stretch and separate, causing that basal skull fracture.
Yes.
I simplified it way more than I'm sure some doctor wants me to.
Well, that you've just brought up the origin of the book. Crash from Senna to Earnhardt. How the Hans helped save racing, which I happen to have a copy of here.
Cool.
I don't know if this is on Mercedes' list, but here it is.
Very good. Yes. Very good. Yes. Absolutely. Well, how long did it take you to put together the book?
Well, it took a while. Let me back up. I actually worked at Hans Performance Products for a while, and I began reporting on the Hans in the early 90s. And here in Atlanta, I knew Jim Downing, based here in Atlanta. Hans Performance Products was actually making the Hans device. I covered Jim in IMSA races. He was wearing the Hans device. So I was familiar with it early on. I did the first reporting on it, and I was working for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. So and the first story would have been 1992. But if you fast forward, I was working at Hans in 2010, and I finally figured out how it worked. So your description is very apt, but what generally is not understood is that the Hans transfers the energy. That's why it works. That is the most important thing. It transfers the energy from the helmet to the tethers connected to the device, through the carbon fiber device, and into the torso. So the energy has to go somewhere, and there's a lot of it in any kind of crash that is more than 40 Gs in terms of the amount of energy coming through the cockpit. So that's what started the book. I said, holy cow, if I've been doing this for 20 years, and I didn't quite realize how it worked, there's probably a book there. And also there's, the long struggle of Jim and Bob Hubbard to bring it to everyone's attention and get it approved, accepted by drivers, mandated by sanctioning bodies. Took 20 years. That's a pretty good story as well. So I started on the book in 2012. I finished it in 2019. I had other books. There was a lot of research, a lot of interviews.
Well, and plus in that 7 years of 2012 through 2019, the technology and the data of crash protection for automotive race drivers has changed substantially. So I imagine your book had to evolve a little bit as those 7 years passed.
Well, it's a point-to-point kind of book. That's why it's called From Senna to Earnhardt. And, of course, I'm sure everyone on your panel realizes or knows that Aytron Senna was not killed by a basal skull fracture. He was killed by an errant suspension piece. But the safety revolution, it's charting more or less the safety revolution that started with Senna's death in 1994. And, of course, the day before, Roland Ratzenberger was killed by a basal skull fracture. So, but the FIA, which sanctions Formula One, was astounded and stunned by the world's reaction to Senna's death. There wasn't a lot of overt and reaction to outside of the sport to Ratzenberger's death, but it's holy cow, how can this very popular 3-time champion be killed in one of your racing cars? And if that's what happens in your sport, of course, Senna was on TV a lot. The series F1 had been on TV for a number of years, thanks to Bernie Ecclestone. Had a lot to do with his popularity. So there was a huge backlash. I mean, the newspapers in Paris, Le Monde and Le Figaro, both were writing editorials about it. The newsletter from the Vatican declared Formula One to be an immoral activity, all in response to Senna, and who was sponsored by a tobacco company and had a Renault engine in his car. So that really set off a huge backlash, and Max Mosley, president of the FIA, realized that they really needed to change and address safety to prevent any driver from getting killed first in Formula One, and foremost from losing a major star. So it's a point-to-point book. Starts with Senna's death and then comes through to Earnhardt's death. And again, huge backlash, as we all know, and a lot of controversy about NASCAR's investigation. There's quite a bit in the book dedicated to NASCAR's investigation and the two books they gave the media about what happened.
Now, I know early on there actually was a competitor out there to the Hans device. I don't say competitor as, it was a competing product. But Hans is the accepted product throughout the automotive racing, I'll call it industry now, because you watch these guys put those on. Doesn't matter what car they're getting in, whether it's sports car racing, road racing, drag racing, everybody, if you kind of watch them, when they put their helmets on, they put the little horseshoe over their shoulders, and then the helmet clips into it, and then they strap themselves in the car. So is Hans still the predominant device everybody uses?
Yes. And the reason for that is that it was patented by Dr. Hubbard twice. Once for the Model 1, the wraparound version, which, again, appears on the cover of the book, the original Model 1 wraparound device. And then thanks to the F1 safety movement, that device was converted to a Hans that still had the same tall collar, but had two tethers at the rear, not tethers on the side. So it was no longer a device designed to save a driver in side impacts. That had to be done through cockpit surrounds, basically.
Yes.
And it instead became a frontal device and offset in 30 degrees on either side, because that's what would fit in cars better.
Jonathan, is the Hans device now mandatory for many racing series?
Mandatory. I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch the full.
Yes. Is it mandatory? Is it mandatory now with different racing series? For instance, does NASCAR mandate that if you're going to race our cars, you have to have a Hans device on?
You have to have a certified head restraint, and SFI. You guys probably know SFI.
Yes.
Which does all the so much testing on behalf of when they're requested by sanctioning bodies. It's so that you have to have one that's passes the test and is certified by SFI. So to go back to an earlier question, there are a number of head restraints out there. By far and large, there are more than 300,000 Hans devices. So it started the head restraint movement, if you will. As you know, in racing, if you have a product that's going to be popular or successful, etc., people will other manufacturing groups, people will try to
copy
inventors will come in and try to do something similar. So that's what's happened. But they do have to go through a certification process.
I'd like for you to address just for a moment here as we kind of wrap up, and that is that you mentioned on many occasions throughout the press release here about the Jeff Gordon crash in 2008. Address that for a moment, if you would.
Yeah, that's an interesting story, because the sanctioning bodies, again, to go back to F1 and the death of Senna, but then you also lost Greg Moore, a rising star in kart in 1999, whose death was preceded by Gonzalo Rodriguez, who suffered a basal skull fracture. And then you lost Earnhardt. So the sanctioning bodies really began to tune in, sadly, when star drivers, known champions, guys who sold a lot of tickets began to get killed. That's what really got their attention. So Hans was mandated by NASCAR in 2001 by the end of the season. By NASCAR, was the first one to mandate the Hans for all races. CART had mandated it for ovals. So 2008, Jeff Gordon found one of those walls that was not protected by a safer barrier at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. He hit so hard the radiator in the front of his Hendrick Motorsports Chevy was several hundred yards down the track. And he credited the Hans for saving his life. And he also had the updated carbon seat. He was also driving the car tomorrow, which had crush paneling in it that absorbed some of the energy. He did not hit the safer barrier, which was around the perimeter outside of the track. So the outside walls. So Jeff became the first champion in NASCAR since Earnhardt was killed, to be saved by the Hans device. There were a lot of other drivers saved by it, but in Jeff's case, he was the first champion saved. And of course, he went on to do a lot more racing, and now he's vice chairman of the Hendrick group. So, that's a very good thing. And of course, that device is in the Smithsonian and is now on display at the Nation of Speed show at the National Air and Space Museum on the Mall in Washington, D.C. That device that saved Jeff.
Well, Jonathan, it's been a pleasure to talk to you, and what a great interview this has been. Very informative. Jonathon Ingram, author of a book called Crash, and we certainly encourage everybody that's interested to check your book out. Where can we get it? Is it available at Amazon?
Okay, thanks, guys. I really enjoyed it. Some good questions.
All right, well, thank you, and I assume that it is available on Amazon. The book, again, is called Crash, From Senna to Earnhardt. All right, time now for... We normally have the racing calendar here, but there isn't any racing, so let's move on, if we don't mind, to Jeff's 5 Pontiacs car fans have forgotten.
Yeah, there's actually about 25 different models for Pontiac from the outset to 2010, but I picked 5. These are my 5 favorites, stuff that really kind of makes me look at it and go, where are they now? So, Conrad, with your assistance on this,
where are they now?
Where are they now?
Pontiac's long gone, and it ain't coming back.
There you go. There you go. Established in 1926, the Pontiac Motor Division was a proud member of the General Motors family since day one. For most of its life, Pontiac was among the top sellers and a valued addition to the lineup. Pontiac was an economy brand close to the Chevrolet in pricing and the model selection. However, from the early 1960s and onward, it was a performance brand image suited best in those days by Pontiac. The number one we have, as soon as we get it here, is a 1962 Pontiac Tempest. In the early 60s, all major U.S. car manufacturers introduced compact models. Chevrolet had the Corvair, Ford had a Falcon, Plymouth had a Valiant, and Pontiac had the Tempest. In most cases, those compact models were smaller versions of the bigger cars they shared the platform with. However, Pontiac went in a different route and presented one of the most advanced and most interesting American cars of the era. The new Tempest had an independent suspension at the time when all cars used a live rear axle. In addition, the Tempest used a rear-mounted gearbox. The transaxle design, which was unheard of at the time, the Tempest didn't have a conventional drive shaft. It connected the engine to the front of the transmission in the back and instead used tubes, cable tubes.
Not unlike Don's Corvette.
Right, exactly. Well, that's what I said. It was unheard of at the time.
The C5 Corvette uses the same technology.
Yep.
And actually, this car, this Tempest, I would say could have been made somewhat famous in the movie My Cousin Vinny.
Okay. Well,
because that was one of the things that she identified as the difference in looking at the tracks on the ground. Was that in your story?
Well, not anymore. Pontiac GT37, the next one, is behind the strange name was a Tempest, but with performance options, much more like the GTO model. Pontiac advertised the G37 as the GTO Light, but the car lacked exterior features and the famous Endura bumper and rear spoiler. So in 1971, they offered the famous 455 V8, but it was only in a handful of the cars. This meant that buyers could spend $3,000 and they could get it to produce 255 horsepower, all the way up to 345 horsepower. Pontiac advertised the G37 as GTO Light again, and they only made about 2,000 of them.
Wow.
Now, quite collectible.
My cousin, Doug Schaefer, who's a friend of the show and subscribes, he had a Pontiac back in the 60s. Loved the car growing up. He was
this Pontiac?
No, a GTO.
Okay.
Pontiac GTO, white one convertible, and I think that's what he had. It might have been a Tempest, but I'm pretty sure it was a GTO. The next one we have is a Pontiac Granville in the early 70s through the Pontiac Motor Division. Pontiac decided
that was a boat.
Pontiac decided to enter in the luxury car market by introducing a top-of-the-line model called the Granville. At the time, the Bonneville was Pontiac's premier model with several body styles available. It was a nice lineup of engines. It was considered the wise choice of a luxury car in the field for Pontiac. However, Pontiac wanted something closer to the Cadillac and the Oldsmobile rather than to the Chevrolet Caprice. So that's what they put the Granville in there. So they presented it as a Pontiac Granville using the Bonneville platform, most of the sheet metal, and a few trim differences of the two models. Had a 400 horsepower V8 engine. Standard 455 was the optional engine. Getting to the nitty-gritty, the Pontiac Grand Am. The late 70s performance car segment was just a pale shadow of its former glory. But the Pontiac Grand Am introduced as a 1 year only and the last true muscle car for that year.
Huh.
Yep. And
Shaker hood like a Trans Am.
You betcha.
And then they used the name later on for another model of car. Go ahead.
Yep, that's okay. The Grand Am package considered special rear louvers, rear spoiler, long list of options. It introduced this car in 77, and the market responded well.
Yeah.
In fact, Pontiac received between 5,000 and 10,000 reservations or orders.
I remember the car.
Yep. But by the end, they only sold 1,377 of them.
And generally, the car was built with the 400 engine, but it was the Oldsmobile 403.
Right.
You could get it with a 4-speed manual in this body style, and if you got it with the 4-speed manual, it came with the Pontiac 400 engine, which had much more horsepower and torque than the Oldsmobile 403.
Yeah, and again, 1 year they didn't produce it in 78. They just didn't have enough. And the last one, my favorite, is the 1965. It's a Catalina 2+2.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, another pure muscle car
barge.
icon.
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah. Behind the strange name hides a full-size Catalina model and available as a coupe, convertible, and with a performance twist. The regular Catalina, great-looking, decent-selling model, but the 2+2 form transformed the Gran Turismo with a luxury interior, fire-breathing engine. That's a mouthful there. Since the Catalina was a full-size model, it was eligible for the two engines, 400 and also the 421. And if you wanted to get a tri-power intake system, you could, which came off of the GTO for this, and you could get one for about $4,000.
So it came with 3 2-barrel carburetors. It also came with 8-lug wheels.
Yes.
If you remember those. And the wheel was actually the drum of the brake. It was really an odd piece.
And if you come out to Coffee and Chrome, there are some older Pontiacs that have the 8-lug wheel out there. Yep.
Oh, that's right. Yes, I saw one of those. I'll be.
Yep.
Well, who'd have thunk it?
Who'd have thunk it?
I had no clue. I see that the Lilienthals are there.
Are they?
Yes. I
the award-winning Lilienthal, Mercedes Lilienthal is there.
Yes. Mercedes is the award-winning. The other
Texas award-winning.
The other Lilienthal is Mr. Warn, or the winch, as it were. Look at them. They're going, are they talking about us?
What are they doing? Remember?
Yeah. Remember. So we're going to talk to them here in about 3 minutes or so. So I invite you to stay tuned for the Lilienthal interview coming your way very, very shortly. Mr. Mars, you looked at me like you wanted to say something, but you don't have your headset on, so I really can't. I really can't hear what you're
trying. He's got his earbuds in.
He's doing like this.
He can't read your mind.
He's chewing
exactly. So that's okay.
He can read your mind. He just doesn't understand it.
That's exactly right, because it's in some language that hasn't been invented yet.
Yeah, that's a problem I've always had.
Yeah. Cutting edge. That's you. All right. Well, we're going to take a break. The In-Wheel Time Car Talk Show streams on the iHeart app, Facebook, YouTube, and InWheelTime.com. And podcasts are available from your favorite podcast channel. Hey, the In-Wheel Time Car Talk Show continues right after this quick break.
Starting to work on your Christmas calendar? Be sure to add the next Tailpipes and Tacos Cruise-In Saturday, December 17th. You'll want to attend Tailpipes and Tacos Christmas Edition at the Loopy Tortilla in Katy, 8 to 11 a.m. It's the only place cruisers compete for Loopy's Chili Pepper trophies and other prizes. There's no charge to enter your vehicle for Best Hot Rod, Best Classic, or Best Modern Classic. Tailpipes and Tacos is Houston's coolest and most unique cruise-in and is your opportunity to see the best hot rods, show cars, classics, and resto mods. And get Loopy Tortilla breakfast tacos with adult beverages. There's no entry fee, and cars will automatically compete for those much sought-after custom Loopy trophies and other prizes. It happens at the Loopy Tortilla Tex-Mex in Katy on the Grand Parkway at Kingsland Boulevard, just south of I-10. It's the Tailpipes and Tacos Christmas Edition, Saturday, December 17th. The In-Wheel Time Car Talk Show will be there, too. Celebrate the Christmas season with friends and family at Tailpipes and Tacos. Saturday morning, December 17th, 8 to 11. We'll see you then, weather permitting. Want to take a minute to tell you about Gulf Coast Auto Shield, a Houston detail company like no other. Gulf Coast Auto Shield offers paint correction services that'll give your car, truck, or SUV a like-new shine. Afterwards, you'll want to protect it with a professionally installed nano-ceramic coating or protection film. Worried about your very expensive windshield getting damaged, broken, or cracked? Let Gulf Coast Auto Shield install ExoShield, a windshield protection film. Give John Gray a call today or check out their website, gcautoshield.com. Hey, whether you own a new, ultra-expensive, exotic, or a 5-year-old Suburban, Gulf Coast Auto Shield will help keep your investment looking like the day it rolled off the assembly line. Gulf Coast Auto Shield is conveniently located on the South Sam Houston Parkway, just south of I-69, the Southwest Freeway. Meet the staff and check out all of their services online right now at gcautoshield.com. The In-Wheel Time Car Talk Show is now part of the iHeart family. Now you'll have access to 24/7 Car Talk anytime you need a fix. Just download the iHeart Radio app and ask for In-Wheel Time Car Talk, and there we are. Be sure to save us in your iHeart library for instant access. No matter where you are, you have the best Car Talk Show right on your PC, laptop, or mobile device and never have to worry about finding us again. Of course, you can always get access to our video and audio streams via InWheelTime.com and your favorite podcast channel, and all of this is free to you. From the iHeart Radio app, you'll not only hear our Saturday Saturday morning live show, but the best shows of the past, updated weekly. Never miss a minute of up-to-date new car reviews, pre-owned reviews, Conrad's Car Clinic, informative interviews, automotive news, and the most fun car talk show on the planet. Just download the iHeart Radio app, search for In Real Time Car Talk, save it to your library, and with a tap of the icon, you'll be in touch with your favorite Car Talk team. In Real Time Car Talk, streaming now on iHeart.com/In Real Time Car Talk.